Good afternoon. Happy Saturday afternoon to you, Scott Baker.
Indeed, Mikey, Saturday, October 18th, time for another edition of Lead Better. And this is field note number 1591. The title is A Novel Way to Express Gratitude. This is about how leaders express gratitude to people on their teams. And as you get in the headline, a novel way, hopefully. And let's explore.
Yeah. Okay. So before we even get to this novel way, let's talk a little bit about gratitude first.
Okay.
Do you think, in your own experience, does saying thank you make you grateful?
Well, you want me to go on a rant right away?
Yeah, I do. I wonder, like, the
Okay.
notion of like parents making their kids say thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Does that actually create gratitude in the hearts and minds of children?
Now,
right?
I have been thinking, like, I haven't prepared like a corporate talk or anything on this, but I've been contemplating for a couple of months the idea of gratitude, but maybe in a different way. Like maybe I'm not grateful for gratitude. Like maybe I don't like the concept. Now, I'll tell you where I'm going with this. I was reading an article in the Wall Street Journal, and in there they were quoting the historian David McCullough from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where I live. I met David McCullough once, and that was a real treat. It was actually semi-happenstance. I knew he was going to be at this event, and I was with Mike Rowe, the guy from Dirty Jobs, and we were at this event, and then there was David McCullough, and I was like, hey, I'm from Pittsburgh. We named a bridge after you, and we didn't talk for, just for a minute or two. But in that article, and the columnist was writing about it and talking about the nature of history, like and the obligations, like why should we pay attention to history? And David McCullough said that not paying attention to history is a very deep expression of ingratitude, right? And I thought, well, this is interesting because whenever people say, because it's a big thing on social media, right? Spend some time in gratitude. Do you have a gratefulness practice? Kind of like, so we think of this thing as a way of being like, well, I'm going to get up and I'm going to do my cold plunge and I'm going to do my meditation. And now I'm going to have my gratefulness period. And my life will be enhanced by this pondering of gratefulness.
Right.
But I've been really thinking about how I'm not sure that that's what gratefulness means.
So I wonder if what he's trying to do is explore some of the sub-skills that go into what creates gratitude, right? So if you have to study history, that means that curiosity is an important sub-skill in gratitude.
Well, yes. Now, where I think it goes, and I think this goes to a very core admired leadership principle that goes to your question, which is, does the practicing of the behaviors of what we would call gratitude demonstrate, does it actually cause you to become that kind of a person? Well, we would generally believe yes, that before you try to figure out your whole inner life and get it all perfectly, and now okay, now that I'm finally feeling courageous, I'm ready to go and be a courageous person. It just doesn't work that way. Right now, so my point in this is that I think you could make a case. I haven't done like deep philosophical research across the millennia on this, but is there a difference between gratitude and thankfulness? Right?
Yes.
Because you'll notice if you look even at wisdom literature, like let's take you could take a concept like the fruit of the spirit. Gratefulness and thanksgiving is not listed in there. You take Benjamin Franklin's list of character qualities that he was trying to work on in his life. Gratefulness, thankfulness, that's not in that list, right? There's lots of other powerful lists where thankfulness and gratefulness are not listed. But what is in there are the practices that we would all say are evidence of a thankful person. And we think of, and in lots of literature, wisdom literature, there's expressions of thankfulness, like making sure that you're telling somebody the thing that you're thankful for. And so I just have been developing this idea. And I think what McCullough was saying is that the evidence of gratitude is that you learn the lesson from these people and you did something with it, right?
Yes.
If I say to even, a leader or somebody who's influenced me, I'm so grateful for you, right? Appreciate you.
Yes.
Well, that doesn't really mean a lot. If I say, I have learned so much from you, and here's how, and here's what it's done in my life, that I think is a deeper expression of gratitude and real thankfulness. It's an act
Yeah.
of thankfulness. You can actually
Yeah.
see thankfulness in action. Gratitude is a little harder to cage because it's more interior.
Right. And so we'd like to think that thankfulness is the expression of gratitude,
I,
but it does mean that there are two different things.
Yeah. So, and we
Gener-
can let's tear apart the field note here, but you and I haven't actually talked about this particular idea around it. But
no.
what I've been trying to think about is like I think there is a miss in the say we would say the cultural discussion on authenticity is way off track, right?
Right.
It misses the point. And I think
Now,
that the meme culture around gratitude is way off track. And so I
yes,
think we can make a more muscular version of thankfulness that actually is empowering.
we have talked about this around generosity, though.
Yes,
We've
right.
talked about how forcing your kids to be generous in a practice so that they will feel generous and have a sense of generosity kind of well. So that might work as a good corollary as we're continuing to talk here. We've talked about how a colleague of ours will give his kids the opportunity to give away his money, so it doesn't feel like he's giving away their money when they're being generous. But at some point, there needs to be a little bit of a switch. But this notion of the practice of generosity is different than having a generous heart.
Right.
But the difference is you can't be generous unless you are generous. Gratitude is something that you could have a grateful heart, even though you're not saying thank you.
Yes, right. Yeah.
So there's a little bit of difference there.
Yeah, and I think when you look across a lot of the wisdom literature stood the test of time, the specific concept of gratefulness is less emphasized than the character qualities that we would say are evidences of a person that clearly has gratefulness for the things in their life. So when we go behavioral, it's in that direction. And so I think here, this is a thing where you're talking about leaders can express thankfulness and they can give feedback and they can give encouragement. They can be inspiring. And so around this idea here, I think there is a potent way to say, is there you should, this is a novel way, it lists this, but it's not like there's one thing, right? It's like you should actually have a full quiver of ways that you're expressing thankfulness to people. And that the goal is an expression from you about them. Yeah. And I think oftentimes for what they've done, for what you've learned, for things you've achieved together, you can actually be thankful for their forgiveness, for their tolerance, for their patience, for all kinds of things, right? And so those are things that are actually a little more, also a little bit more uncomfortable in some ways than just saying, grateful for you, appreciate that. So let's now get. I'm sorry. This is your fault. Like you wound me up.
No.
And
I'm glad to do it. And I think that your friend's observation about history is paralleled in this recommendation of what the novel way is, because in many ways, what I'm doing is I'm exploring my history of you when I'm making this. And here's the recommendation: this list of your strength, right? Yep. So me studying you like a history book and then pointing out what that history is to you is falls right in line with like what his recommendation of like gratitude. Yeah,
I definitely think so, because there's another book that I like called Breaking Bread with the Dead by Alan Jacobs, who's a Baylor professor, and he just talks about the fact that we have a greater personal density, like a thickness to our presence when we have a temporal range, meaning we're seeing things to the past, we're seeing things to the future, and we're actually looking at the river of history that we're in, and it roots us. And what McCullough is saying is that when you're living that life through the ideas of even people you've read that have been long dead, the way that you're living in accordance with ideas that they've expressed is the demonstration of gratitude and thankfulness for those ideas. right?
Right.
So now in this then novel way, a leader might say, well, I've got all kinds of ways to say to people, yeah, hey, doing a good job. And we know that when people do feel valued, they're more engaged. The field note goes into that point. And it says that, the best leaders do go out of their way to do it. And so then in this idea of the thing that stands out, that it would be, it's probably not the thing you do every day. And it's probably not the thing you do for everybody all in 1 week, or it won't work. Right. And this is not we're against techniques or hacks. You actually have to think this through at a deep level. But the winner here, as the field note calls it, a winner, is when you as a leader put down on paper, maybe even a handwritten note, and you leave it at the person's desk, or you send it to the person's home, and it is not just a, hey, you're doing a good job. It's a list of qualities. It's, here's what I see in you. Here are the things that are strengths of yours that are particular. And I just want you to know that this is what I see. I'm not sure how you feel day to day, but this is what I see. And then it's not just saying, hey, you're very persistent, right? But if I can add some level of detail to that, like the way you stuck with that project, even after it looked like the company was going to cancel the whole initiative, and yet you kept doing the work for 6 weeks, and then all of a sudden it turned around. If you hadn't been persistent through that, we never would have seen the light of day. And that quality in you is enormous.
Yeah. And think back to the letters that you've kept in your life. I think back, I've got a few right here over my right shoulder, right, that I can pull out. And if I were to pull and identify why it is that I kept those letters in particular, like those thank you notes that I've received, and those letters from friends, that some of them are now 30 years old, but they're within arm length of me right now. The reason I kept those particular ones are probably because there are a list of strengths that they mentioned, right? While they were writing me a note of some sort, they did that. And so for me to like have those and be like, I'm not going to let go of this because somebody took the time to be a big enough fan of me that they articulated why they believed in me. And so that's probably why I chose, like, I can't bring myself to throw those away because I feel like it's a part of me, but they're showing me a part of myself that I wouldn't write down in my own journal in the same way.
Right.
But I want to keep those because it's like, okay, this is an expression that somebody really believed in me. So it's mentioned here in the field note, like people will keep that for a long time. I'm the type of person, I've kept it for a long, the ones I chose to keep are ones that were like that.
Well, let me ask you this, because, in the literature, there is a concept of how we script into other people a bit of their own self-perception, maybe even a lot of it. Right. And so, they probably were highlighting things that were strengths of yours, and maybe they were, but I'm betting that they became bigger strengths of yours because you kept thinking, I must be this kind of person. They said that
that identity became completely bolstered and cemented in based upon that. Right. And I wanted people to recognize it. And even before I knew I wanted people to recognize it, they would say it in a way that, oh yeah, okay. Yeah, that is me.
Well, and think about this, and because it's not over my shoulder, but I have a couple filing cabinets over here, and I'm in one of them. I mentioned this a long while ago on a talk that you and I did. When I, as a young reporter, television reporter, was interviewing this one guru, and this other guy that not that many people knew about, Stephen Covey, was there. His book had just come out about these weird 7 habits. And I was like, hey, can I talk to you too? I read your book. And then after the interview, a couple weeks later, I got a package in the mail and a letter from him. Like, I wasn't expecting that at all. And he said in there that how much he'd enjoyed the interview. And he actually said, what a fine interviewer I see in you. Right. I can still remember that more than 30 years later. And I think that then throughout my journalism career for the next, couple of decades, I was probably always trying to live up to that sort of ideal because I don't know that I'd ever thought of myself as a great interviewer. I'm just out there doing a job, asking questions. And so I was like, oh wait, apparently I better really get good at this. Right.
Yeah.
So when you think about this, Of course, not that many people on your team are going to get notes like this. I bet your kids don't get notes like this, right? Maybe on a birthday, you could slip it into a birthday card, but isn't it different if you just, maybe the day, it could be on an important day, like the night before school starts or a big performance. And when you're highlighting those strengths and you're underlining them, what a wonderful thing for you to be able to do.
Yeah. And one of the admired leaders that we've studied, Anson Dorrance, the soccer coach for the UNC women's soccer, who made it a habit of writing to his graduating senior players notes like this. And when you go back and you interview some of these people who went on to become, part of the U.S. women's national team and everything like that, they'll credit that. They'll still have it, right? I think it was Mia Hamm who said that she doesn't like to read it anymore because of how often she read it.
Right.
It was falling apart. Yeah.
Right. So, well, look, I think that we know this is true. And one thing I'll say to end is that don't overthink this. Like, I think some leaders will hear this and think, I've never really done this. This doesn't seem like me. If you wait for like the perfect moment and you got the perfect idea, just start making it a thing to just be like, I'm going to leave a card. I'm going to leave something, get some stationery printed that has just, it's a stock card, a 3x5 on with a nice, embossed thing or whatever. And then just say one a week, or you start with one a month. I'm going to find one person a month where I'm going to do this for. And then as you start to do that, I have a theory that maybe what you said at the beginning is going to happen is you start to become a more grateful and thankful person.
Yeah, because it's going to connect with your identity. And then there's all kinds of things that, your personal, psychological, and emotional benefits of being someone who is filled with gratitude, right? Your increased happiness, your the reducing of negative emotions, building even resilience and self-esteem in yourself. Is all the white papers say that's what gratitude builds for you. So you could have a selfish motive in this as well.
Yeah, right. No doubt. Well, thanks, Mikey.
All right. Thank you. We'll talk tomorrow.
All right. Bye.